We are here to continue our conversation. We just had Taira Reza, and we are going to bring in now Farooq Iqbal, the Dean of IBA, great institution of Pakistan, which basically manages the corporate pulse of the nation, and its faculty is scattered throughout the Pakistan and around the globe. It's a great institution. Her Excellency Princess Nasreen Al Hashemite, a great educator, a great scientist, a great innovator, and on the forefront of United Nations on the women empowerment. Farooq, we are focused on the mid-sized economy of Pakistan. Mid-sized economy, $5 to $10 million businesses, $5 to $10 million US dollar businesses that represent perhaps the heart of the exportability and the growth and whatnot. And we are trying to focus in that market and raising few questions. Okay. Can they quadruple or double their exportability? Can they tackle innovation? Can they enlarge their horizon, become global player? Could they become leading icon? And how can they train the next generation leaders, a space which you have monopoly, and you play such a great role. And would you share with us some numbers or how this is happening, and how do you see Pakistan's growth as we go forward?
All right, well, I'll do my best. Look, Pakistan faces great challenges in the area of human capital. When you talk about an economy growing in the future, given where the world stands today, it's very important for there to be a sizable cadre of educated individuals in the country. And Pakistan, unfortunately, has not been growing that cadre as rapidly as it should have. Partly because they've not been devoting enough money to secondary and tertiary education. Partly because there have been sort of quality problems in education. So there are all these challenges. These are reasonably well known. At the moment, the rate of tertiary education in Pakistan is less than 10%, meaning only 10% of the people of a particular age group who are supposed to be enrolled in higher education, post-secondary, are enrolled. In the developed world, certainly in Europe, that ratio tends to be closer to 50%, in some cases even more. We need to get much further north of 10% than we are. So there are these challenges. I could go on about the challenges, but despite the challenges, I'm actually quite optimistic about Pakistan's prospects. Most of my optimism comes from the belief and the sort of understanding that Pakistan's private sector is very innovative, very agile, and has somehow learnt to work with a public sector that is not fully supportive, right? And I see this in my students, in the students who come to the Institute of Business Administration. I see it when I track their careers, when they leave the institute, the kinds of work they do. So my sense is, there is some optimism because there are all these smart people who are doing things, innovative things, connecting with the world. And I just think that despite all of our problems, there is what you might call a vanguard of innovative people who are going to sort of make a mark in the next 20, 30 years. That's where sort of my optimism comes from.
I think, Princess Nasreen, if I were to describe Canada or United States, we have similar landscape, similar issues. We find that the private sector is often at disconnect with the government and with the public sector. But the fact that the new generation is very aggressively looking at the global age in a very different way, we feel that
Yes.
in coming years, with all the technology, with all the issues, it is going to happen that that the old generation somehow will have to either step aside, fade away, or open new floodgates, because the younger generation is coming from an entirely different set of rules, different set of training, different set of understanding, and the disconnect is so vast. And I'm sure, Princess Nasreen, in your global encounter, you would find the traditional business, whether it's in Saudi Arabia or whether it's in Turkey or whether anywhere, it is very much out of the place. So how do you tackle these discrepancies and these issues?
Well, you just reminded me, Mr. Javid, one day I was invited to a family office forum that it had all these top European, American, Canadian family offices, and I supposed to address them, and I couldn't find a mutual way, like they are business people. I am much more into like non-profit making or running a non-profit making organization. And in fact, I just found the one thing common, that I'm running an organization that works on a human development, and they are running profit-making organizations that it is as well with the human development, because when they will make money, that means they will employ more people when they expand, etc. So we will end poverty, we will increase the number of employed people, we will have like other developments. So the only thing I found that when talking to older generations, the only problem I had actually talking to older generations in the private sector. And in fact, like being the youngest in my family, I always learned how to talk to the older brothers and at the same time to listen to them. So I created this kind of dialogue with the traditional businesses, that how you can listen to the others. Like, for example, I gave them an example when I joined Razet as its executive director. Traditionally, the executive board will meet in person. I introduced the meeting via Skype. And at the beginning, they did not absorb it. My colleagues who were very much older than me and more experienced than me, they did not get it. But after one time or two times, they loved it. So actually, it depends on how we communicate with older generation, how we create a kind of intergenerational dialogue. Because the problem now I'm facing with my interns who are youth, they think because they know a bit of technology more than I do, they know everything. And actually they lack the experience. Okay, now we have to create this intergenerational dialogue. The older generation, they have the experience, and the younger generation, they have the technology, the new skills, and at the same time, the vision. So how we can create this intergenerational dialogue, whether businesses, whether in in public sector, even at school, at school, primary education. This is quite important. Now, we don't need the older generation to step aside. We need to learn from them how to move forward. We need to get their advices. And if we will put them aside, then we will create, like a kind of conflict between the younger and the older. I just would like to focus on an important issue that Mr. Farouk just raised about the challenges facing Pakistan, which is education and the human capital, investing in human capital. Actually, here, is technology going to replace education? No. We need to use technology to improve educational system and to create a kind of dialogue with those experts overseas, with the experts locally or nationally. So this is where technology can be used to create a kind of exchange of experience or vision or other things. The other thing, if we are going to talk about the intergenerational dialogue, then we have to improve the education system, starting with the curriculum, then move forward to innovating in new institutes and new specialties that meet the current situation. So, in fact, the technology is very important, but it is not everything, because we need science, we need the critical thinking, we need innovative way in creating educational system to move forward. And above all, it is all about communication between the older, the younger, and the middle age like me.
That's amazing. But thank you, Princess. Farouk, how do you bring the old generation into new, or you take the new generation into older thinking? Because the entrepreneurial part of the old generation was very, very strong. And we argue in our thinking and our philosophy of Expothon that the organized, explicit knowledge that is delivered through the academic institution very often lacks the tacit knowledge. Explicit knowledge, like learning bookkeeping that can be written. Tacit knowledge is learning to ride a bike that you cannot write a book about it. So the idea is this entrepreneurialism, which we call the entrepreneurial quotient. It's all about risk-taking, decision-making, and the kind of out-of-the-box operation, which the new generation at times lacks it, because they were raised on one side the silver spoon, on the other side the academic education.
Look, there are several dimensions that we have to keep in mind in this. First of all, yes, the old generation has some knowledge that it can pass on, whether it's tacit knowledge or some other kind of knowledge. And it's always a good idea for the younger generation to work in some sort of apprenticeship relationship with the older generation. It happens in a very natural way in family business. It also happens in a fairly organized way in well-established companies with management structures, such as most of the large, at least the multinational corporations in Pakistan. But there is a dimension that has just been mentioned here about technology that I would like to sort of bring to the fore. So much change is taking place in the world of business because of technology, because of the arrival of digital technology in the last really 20, 30 years, that frankly, many old businesses and the tacit knowledge that goes with those businesses are no longer useful. You know, it varies from sector to sector, but the entire world of IT and the businesses it's enabling requires a higher education, requires an innovative mindset, requires people not following hierarchical procedures, requires the world of the office management or company management or industry management procedures to be very different in the future than they were in the past. So to some extent, that aspect, the arrival of certain technology, has unfortunately or fortunately made some of the tacit knowledge of the older generation irrelevant.
Right.
Now, my sense is smart people will try to get the best of both worlds. They learn as much as they can from one generation. They'll move as fast as they can into the world of the new generation. I see it at home every day. My children can do certain things faster than I can, right? It's as simple as working on an iPad, or if you think about a question, I'm still trying to see, I should call XYZ to find out the answer, and they're immediately tapping something and they've got an answer from some online source. I don't even think about online sources because that's not what I'm used to. I did my academic work back in the 1970s. So my sense is, I'm still used to books and people and professors.
Sure.
They are clued into a very different world. So the general point is, there's a lot to learn. You can learn a lot from the older generation, but the technological revolution, especially the digital revolution, has really changed the substructure that supports modern business. And I think we will just have to go with it. We will have no choice. And the reason I'm sort of excited or optimistic about Pakistan's prospects is because I think this is well understood, and there is a reasonably large number of people who are simply moving through education and moving into entrepreneurial pursuits based on this new technological structure, which is very good. That's where they need to be. And frankly, there's a very interesting dimension. I'll just mention it because we've experienced it firsthand. At the IBA, we run some entrepreneurial training programs. 50% of the folks who show up for these entrepreneurial trainings, these are certificate programs, they run for 4 months. 50% of the people who show up for these training courses are women.
Excellent.
The overwhelming number of women who are sitting in these classes are what we would call traditional. They are dressed traditionally, and so on. And the reason they are there is because modern technology has enabled them to be entrepreneurial from their homes. The customs of the country require them to be in settings, work settings that do not involve public contact. Okay, that's a larger social dimension of our existence. But they are entrepreneurial. They are thinking. They have figured out ways to run businesses from home, and today they can do that because all they need is an internet connection. And that's how they get online.
Absolutely.
And it's incredible the number of businesses that they spawn. They're all small, and that's fine. These are, they'll grow larger. But when I go to the graduation ceremonies of these groups, I'm just struck by the examples of entrepreneurship that young women in our country, young women in a traditional setting, are... So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. You can learn a lot from various people, but there's so much new happening that we just have to seize hold of these opportunities.
Sure. And I think, Princess Nasreen, you have seen this throughout the Arabic world, throughout the Muslim countries, throughout the rest of the globe, that there's a sharp rise of women participation in entrepreneurial programs on a very aggressive basis. And now searching for customer is done through an entirely different process. The old concept from the last century, foot in the door, of the fuller brush salesman, making cold calls is now being replaced through online. Look what Expothon is doing. We are communicating this event to 50,000 plus businesses outside into the market. We are connecting with Your Excellency. We are connecting with a lot of other people from around the globe, from the comfort of their homes. And we are trying to spread the language and the message in a very simple, effective, cost-free manner to raise the bar. And I think the magic today lies, why are we doing this? Or what is so different that we are bringing to Pakistan? Or how come it was never done before? So now the global intelligentsia is getting together and in some of our subsequent programs, in some of your subsequent debates, we're talking about not only women entrepreneurs, we're talking about the role of science and formal education and the art of technology and innovation, bring it all together under one umbrella and have discussion. I would very much like to see 1,000 family-owned businesses on one side and 1,000 academic people with formal, high-quality, highly demanded education of tomorrow, and also the entrepreneurial part and the next generation, all in one large assembly going through these processes. Now, technologically it's possible. We are going to prove it that how 5,000 people can have this kind of a discussion or 50,000 people can have this kind of a discussion and deploy some programs Monday morning and say, great, we listened, we saw, now let's try to do something. The objective we have here, how do we mobilize, how do we create a national program and we mobilize a lot of people? Coming back to you, Princess, what would you say the Arab woman or the Arab entrepreneurs at this current moment across GCC with that tremendous amount of wealth, how do they see their role in terms of innovative technology or creating a market outside the petroleum industry or outside the traditional industry, and how do they see it?
Well, actually, I will speak about the Arab women in general. I'm not going to just talk about the GCC countries. I will talk how technology is helping Iraqi women with all their difficult situations that they are facing with the security issues in Iraq and all of that thing, and how it helped them to move outside outside the border of Iraq, I mean, through technology. The same thing as the Moroccans or the Egyptians, the Sudanese, etc., or the ladies from the Gulf. Now, the whole issue is the biggest issue of the women, Arab women. We have successful Arab business women, but even if they are well known internationally, they are outside they are not exposed on media, or they are not exposed in their society. And this is by itself is, I don't know why, maybe is it tradition that we are talking about, or is it the self-esteem, or they feel more comfortable talking outside their country than inside their country? I don't know. But actually, the technology is helping a lot of young women, to move forward in their business ideas, in their style of running business, etc. So, honestly, I have to be a bit careful about the issue of Arab women, because if I will be a bit honest, it will be too much politically incorrect. But well, actually, Mr. Iqbal talked about the traditional women, that they run businesses from home. And this is something like we have seen in Europe and in the Americas a lot, that women are working from home. maybe because they are mothers, wives, and at the same time they are running their own businesses from home, and this is quite successful. And they're growing up and they employ so many people, etc. And 2 days ago, there was a discussion on BBC, actually, talking about whether people should work from home, because they become more effective and they produce more than just to spend time going into the offices, etc. The issue about women, traditional women, for me, I love my traditions and I respect a woman wearing her Punjabi or sari, etc. So at the end of the day, whatever is important is developing women through education, critical thinking, with the skills, whether she will work from home or whatever she was going to wear, this is her personal issue. And she has the freedom, to do so. The main thing is to be active and to be productive in the society. But the main issue is how much we can rely on technology. Is technology, and this is a question from me to Mr. Farouk, how much we can rely on technology, like the digital technology, etc. Is it a fashion that in 10 years' time or 15 years' time is going to fade and there will be something new other than the digital technology or other thing? So how sustainable is digital technology for management,
yes,
for the economy?
yes,
From now into another 10 years?
yes.
It is a very, very deep question, and it is a concern among intelligentsia that technology could suddenly have run into issues. Yes.
I'll be frank. Digital technology is now like electricity. It will be, this is what, one never asks the question. There was an electricity revolution, power revolution about 100 years ago. One doesn't ask the question, is it going to be around? Electricity is now the basis of everything. Home life, work life, everything, right? Digital technology is essentially on the same trajectory. It is revolutionizing things. It will continue to revolutionize things. And essentially within, frankly, one more generation, people won't be asking that question anymore because they're simply used to it. It's the basis of everyday life. It already is for many people, but it's the basis of everyday life. The interesting things that, if you just focus on it, is the top 5 corporations in the world by capitalization are all based on a digital platform and did not exist 30 years ago.
That's right.
Right? This is something that has happened in my lifetime as I was growing up, or actually in my professional lifetime. Not as I was growing up, as I was already in my professional life, I was observing all of this, and because it happens slowly, even over 30 years, you don't realize it, but the people who were at the vanguard always knew that this was going to be. So my sense is we should probably just accept it and work with it. And the most interesting aspect of this for me is that it liberates a lot of talent and energy and potential that various countries, and especially those of our part of the world, were unable to exploit before. And this is where I bring in the question of women. For various reasons, our social mores are such that they do not allow a large enough number of women to be active in the public sphere, to be, in the traditional world of business, interacting. If you take Pakistan, for example, there is no decent public transport here. It's hard enough for men to travel from one part to the other for a job. It's almost impossible for women to do that because of the nature of public transport, right? Digital technology makes that irrelevant for many people.
Sure.
You sit at home and do what you need to do. This is a very typical or a very obvious example. There are going to be hundreds of other examples that I haven't even thought about right now that will unfold over time and will sort of say, oh, this is interesting, oh, this is great, and so on and so forth, right? It's changing so many things. Now, there is a real risk, which is that not only is it changing things, but it is destroying some things that we thought were, going to be around forever. It's destroying jobs at a faster rate than other technological developments in the past. This, I think, is serious. It's destroying jobs not just at the level of the blue-collar worker, but at the level of the white-collar worker who was used to sort of, certain operations. They would, accounting, bookkeeping, all of these things have been sort of revolutionized. As you know, in the world of medicine, so much can now be done. For example, radiology. The radiologist can be sitting 2,000 miles away, looks at the plates or the whatever overnight, sends the results back, and a doctor in the United States is using those results for the next diagnosis, and so on and so forth. I mean, these are just... So my sense is this is just a massive change in the world. It is tremendously liberating for some groups, and I put women in that category. It has some risks for certain cadres of people. In particular, it emphasizes the importance of education, because you cannot operate in the digital world without basic education, the ability to read, the ability to work with computers and so on and so forth. And those who are either unwilling to or unable to because of resource restrictions get into this level of education are going to suffer. Adjustments will be made, but this is a serious risk that is there. But beyond that, I'm sort of, I started off saying there are many challenges, but deep down I'm optimistic that all of this is leading towards a better outcome for us here in Pakistan, for us in the Muslim world certainly. This is going to be very, very, very useful.
I would like to throw a very interesting, out-of-the-box. Our Prime Minister Imran Khan is talking about getting the non-resident Pakistanis involved back into the country. I would love to see a forum or a discussion where the diaspora of educated, well-trained, highly skilled people look back at the country and try to exchange and interact with the people, try to bring innovative thinking, try to bring Prince's, Nisreen, your kind of organizations and other countries together and try to capitalize on that immense resource. The women of Pakistan, outside Pakistan, are amazing. They have got the experience, they've got the smartness, they've got the knowledge, and they have got great combination that can put this all together.
Indeed. So, well, actually, this is quite important, to bring the outside experts with and to bring them back. I will talk from my own experience. 3 weeks ago, I went to my ophthalmologist for the eye checkup and the regular one. And actually, the ophthalmologist is a Pakistani lady, and she's quite well known in her field. I told her I might be going to Pakistan, and she said to me, "Oh, I would love to go back there and open my clinic and start working there, and even work at the university, etc." So actually, that was just a discussion with one person. Another colleague of mine, she's a quite well-known researcher in STEM research, and she's of Pakistani origin. And I was telling her, will you go back to Pakistan? She said, I would love to. I would love to even establish my laboratory in there. So actually there is this thing that the Pakistanis, they would love to go back. As I mentioned earlier, that all depends on the policy. If we will have science policy, if we will have great funding, and at the same time with the proper studies on how to move forward, starting with education system, whether at the primary level education or university, the research, the institutes, etc. And as I mentioned before, that Pakistan is very rich in its people. For us at Razet, we are quite happy to collaborate with our colleagues and friends in Pakistan, with our expertise, with our knowledge, with the vision that we have, and to help Pakistan, whether at governmental level or other levels, to move forward. And I have believe in the new government, and as well as the Pakistani people. You know, as I said, Pakistan is rich in its people. There are so many great caliber and cadre out overseas that we need to create. Even if they don't go back, they can create a kind of collaboration, you know, training, etc. So this is very important.
This is very good. Do you think, Farooq, if there were continuous dialogue on similar type of discussion, like this is a 12-hour, one-day Oktara debates, but frequent repeats of this and then more participation for us to identify the 50,000 or 100,000 mid-sized businesses and their first generation and second generation people all to come together and bring the diaspora, bring the people all together. Don't you think that this is where you see the disruption or the modern way of communicating and exchanging knowledge and sharing knowledge, and Princess Nisreen bringing collaborative thinking and collaborative processes that we could create quantum leap and provide the platform and the facilities that PTI, the current government administration, is desperately seeking a specific solution.
It's already happening. We don't need to worry about collaboration and exchange with the diaspora. We are 20 years into a period of extensive interaction. Pakistanis in Pakistan interacting with our own diaspora and many others. This process has been going on. Frankly, I think if government interferes too much or tries to shape this, it might spook some of the people who are having a natural dialogue and sort of they're exploring business opportunities in Pakistan and so on and so forth. All they need to do, frankly, is to make sure that the country has adequate electricity. You know, the power outages are a big problem for digital technology. All they need to make sure is that internet protocols are reasonable. They should probably withdraw the tax that they have placed on mobile phone use, which is a very regressive tax. Those are the sorts of things government should do. Basically stay out of the business of individuals and companies interacting with each other. Now, other organizations, also from the private sector or the non-government sector, have a bigger role to play. Some of them may see a profitable opportunity in this sort of brokering. Great. Other sort of non-governmental organizations certainly can get involved. Educational institutions get involved. We sponsor conferences of a different type, but we have lots of foreign guests or visitors in our technology conferences. once again, I'll simply repeat, I'm actually optimistic. I worry when the public sector starts to look at our activities and wants to do some shaping. I'm basically saying, please stay out. We'll manage fine. All of this can happen without a lot of, guidance. So this is good news. This is happening. It's everywhere you see all that interaction exchange is taking place.
I totally agree, and I think, Princess, your experiences in the United Nations, I totally agree with Farooq that government should do what they should do, provide stability and balance and justifiable processes to manage, but not interfere into the issues coming from free and open societies like Canada, United States, and Europe.
Yes.
This is where they have done it very well. Businesses are allowed to do a lot of things. But there is something critical at this moment, that the government requires a lot of training and understanding what the global age is all about, how to execute in this environment, how to manage and how to fertilize grassroots prosperity by utilizing technology and other things, and let the smart people who are equipped to do with that, but they must be retrained to deal with the current situation, because what worked in the 40s and 60s and 90s from a political point of view or from assembly of the votes and administrative stuff, I think all that, not only public is tired, but I think the government themselves realize that it's not working. And by the way, this is no blaming on Pakistan or isolating Pakistan. This is the common problem from one country to so many, including Canada,
indeed.
United States.
Indeed. Well, actually, for me, I agree with Mr. Farooq and with you, Mr. Javid, but we need to work with government to a certain extent, like, for example, to give them the advice, because at the end of the day, we need to move forward. For example, if we are going to talk about foreign investment coming into a country, not talking about Pakistani government, generally speaking, into any government, if the taxation, if the working, if the licensing, all these laws are not suitable, then we need to work with the government to develop these systems, like in order for foreign investors to come or do something. For me, as you may know, I'm from a political family, starting with my grandfather, the first king of Iraq till now, but I'm a doctor and scientist. I tried to be away from politics, but I found that politics is in everything. Like even in science, if we want to do science, then we have to persuade politicians. Like I mainly worked in UK and USA. So actually we have to deal with politicians, we have to persuade them, we have to talk to them about funding, priorities, etc. So I agree with you when you said we need to train the government members and to update them. This is quite important.
I am delighted to be here at the Oktara debates, and with me I have Tahira Raza, chairwoman of the first Women's Bank of Pakistan, a great superstar in her own right. And I also have with me Her Royal Highness Princess Nisreen Al Hashemite, and she is a great scientist and a supporter of the women empowerment and an active member on the United Nations front. It is a great honor to have you, Princess Nisreen, and we would like to welcome you to the debate. And my opening question was really, please tell us a little bit what you are doing and what your organization, RASIT, is doing on the empowerment, and what do you see as some of the major challenges for the woman and science into this?
Well, first of all, thank you very much indeed for inviting me and to be with you. And it is a great pleasure. And I'm sorry that I couldn't make it to Pakistan. And hopefully in the near future I will have the great pleasure and honor to visit my second home, a country that I respect very much, with its leadership and with its people, the great achievers. Regarding the Royal Academy of Science International Trust, what we are doing, well, actually, as you may know, this year we celebrate 50 years of RASET's mission. The Royal Academy of Science International Trust was founded by my father, His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin King Faisal I al-Hashemite, and in 1968 when he allocated money, the trust fund, to empower youth from developing countries who are facing difficult circumstances in pursuing their higher education. Through the years, RASET educated and served more than 21,000 students in their higher education. I am so honored to say that 50% of these students were females, and so we achieved the 50-50 even before the international community. So it is in our genes and in our heritage to support women or to empower women, and at the same time to support women, particularly in science. As you may know, Mr. Javid, that before this moving towards science, technology, and innovation for sustainable development since the 20th century till now, and it is only science that can find the solutions for the problem and provide the practical and sustainable solutions for the future and for generations to come. So, in fact, we worked a lot for empowering women in science. I would talk as a woman in science myself with 4 scientific degrees, and the international community or so many people around the world, they call me the science princess, which is something interesting actually. This year we celebrate in RASET 20th anniversary for the Women in Science International League, which we, through which we advocated for the rights of women in science, for the rights of women in science, in equality, in parity, in support, etc. We discussed so many issues through the years, and for us, we reached to a point that during 2015, that actually there are a great number of women in science worldwide, but the whole problem that the world is not recognizing their achievements. And we proposed the resolution to the 69th, to the President of the General Assembly, and we championed to the government of Malta the resolution proclaiming February 11th as the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, which is celebrated annually.
That's great.
Of course, this resolution brought a great impact, and through our advocacy programs, we raised so many issues, including the role of media, which was raised for the first time at the United Nations, and then the CSW on it further, and our advocacy with media programs. Now you can see, for example, on BBC, they are hosting women in science as experts. And when I say science, it is not the STEM, because so many people in the world, they try to separate science. Science cannot be separated. Whether it is applied or life sciences or social sciences, they cannot be separated. So we are talking about science. And we championed as well the role of women in science for sustainable development programs, and we achieved a lot through this. And this is because we not only bring recognition for the women in science, but as well we tackle the problems. Like in the Western world or in developed countries, they have, like in the United Kingdom and the United States, where women are paid less than men. So while in so many countries in Africa or in Asia, women are paid equally, but the difference that in other countries, like the developed countries, they have the science policy, and they have funding. However, women in the developed world, they don't have the science, they do not enjoy the science policy because they do not exist by so many governments. And if they exist, they lack the funding. So this is the biggest challenge now that we are facing on how to invest.
That's great observations, and obviously there is so much going on. Now, when we talk about how these things bounce into Pakistan, Taira, from your experiences as the chairwoman of a bank, one of the largest, 40 branches plus, and with all the national issues, how do you see your challenges to transform business and entrepreneurial women, and also to bring science and technology closer so there are increased opportunities for commercialization and monetization of those ideas?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this forum, which is, I think, very close to my heart, because this very subject, we know that how we have struggled through in life. Similarly, we are the opportune people who have reached to that level, but there are several people who have to really find their way and live a life where, they're treated as equal citizens and have equal opportunities. First Women Bank faces the challenge of developing women entrepreneurship, as we all know, and we have seen from various development indicators in education, in health, in mobility, and in terms of even if they have some kind of an opportunity to work, their responsibilities are too many, the household responsibilities, child care, and even elderly care is the responsibility, considered to be the responsibility of the women alone. So there's too much of pressure on a woman. So even if she has the potential to be the fast runner in any race, she is left behind, which is a very unjust thing for a woman. And that is the responsibility of the society to look at all those aspects which actually deprive a woman to exploit her full potential. So I think our challenge was to see if women could be brought into certain businesses which are non-traditional. Although the traditional businesses they do the boutiques, beauty parlors, but there are certain non-traditional businesses also in which women participate, but they're very few. And the reason definitely is because they don't have exposure. And as you very rightly said that, if we really want to move fast in any area, the science and technology play its very important role. And again, because of the lack of exposure, because of lack of trust on women in the society, sometimes they cannot connect the science with their businesses. And whenever they have an exposure, we see that they always, shine out of, the people around them, even if they are men. In this era of digitization, I think women are very well placed, because in education institutions also we see that women are mostly well educated, they are all who perform well, they get good grades, better grades than men. So I think those people who have reached to that level and now are able to use the technology for the businesses best. So there's a program in Pakistan which we have partnered with. It's called Tech Pakistan, where the young women from college are being taught how to use technology and enter into businesses by kind of remaining within those constraints. If they're not able to get out of it, they can do it from home. The mobility issue is also addressed, and they can earn while they're sitting at home. So I think those are the options which now technology is providing, the science is providing, and we need to focus on those. But at the same time, I think that we should not really be oblivious of the fact, or should not, move our focus from the fact that women do need mobility, and we have to provide her mobility. And just by providing her an opportunity to work from home does not mean that we would not help her come out of, because that way we are actually restricting their potential to be in a particular sector only. And that is something which is a mindset change which has to come in. And mostly, when there is an explicit bias, I think that's a good bias. We know that this is a bias and we fight against it. But sometimes it is a very, it's not that explicit. We sometimes feel that in a patriarchal society, when you support a woman in a way which is a protective thing, that is very difficult to manage. I'll just give you an example. Like if you are recruiting women for a particular, recruiting people for a particular position, and you feel that because it is a day and night job and maybe a woman cannot do it, so you slash out that woman from even becoming to the competition stage. And we think that because they can't come in the night, or maybe it's a difficult thing, without giving her a choice that she should decide whether she wants to do a night job or a day job. These are very dangerous ones, and we have to really bring them to the forefront, those kind of issues which we think are being, we think that it's just a care for a woman, but it's not. It's actually depriving them from exploiting or from, being availing that right which she deserves. So I think this is obviously the issue of the society, and the same thing is the case with us, because when we have to develop women, either, whenever we talk about women, people think that it has to be only and only the grassroots women, whereas we don't realize that even women who have got certain opportunities to educate themselves and can do certain things, they also face a lot of problems which we generally call a glass ceiling effect, and we do not focus much on them, and all of us focus on the grassroots. But I think if we focus those women who are ready to actually avail those opportunities, probably will create more good role models, and the trickle-down effect for the grassroots would be better. So that's, I think, the dilemma which we are facing, that expectation of people from First Women Bank is that we are going to be helping the grassroots women. First, we will teach them how to, what business should they do and how should they do that business, and then we finance them, and then if they are in trouble, we sort those problems out. So I think that's the biggest challenge which we face.
This is amazing. Allow me to present or frame a situation, Princess Nisreen. Many years ago, I was booed in the United States when in a conference I said that as technology were to advance, the women are more equipped to make better decisions and perform better than men. And it is based on the fact that if you observe a woman, how she raises a family, how she sacrifices, how she raises the children, even at the risk of her own life, how she passionately tries to grow, and she survives all the complications and situation and grow the family. This is a entrepreneurial behavior because we believe that all women are basically entrepreneurial. For that matter, every person is an entrepreneurial. Unfortunately, our surrounding, our families, our friends, our people, our system takes away that away, and they try to restrict it and say you only have to do what your parents did and so on. I would like to frame a proposition for which we brought the Expothon program here, that how we can identify 2,000 or 5,000 existing businesswomen across the nation and give them the necessary education and training and guidance so that they can quadruple, grow and enlarge their business and become regional or national or international player, learn to operate at a very fastest speed at the global age, learn how to develop export markets, learn how to open new markets, and most important, how to think in 4 dimensions where they can apply multiple thought processes to arrive at better decisions and better strategies. Science and bringing entrepreneurialism together is a magic. Those countries that brought sciences with the entrepreneurialism created unbelievable opportunities and created jobs. Look at United States. The entrepreneurialism was the reason that all those great ideas which were sitting and collecting dust rolled up as very expensive intellectual property got commercialized and got monetized and brought the benefits. So I think in Pakistan there is an opportunity that how you can take 2,000, 5,000 women, organize a system, a very methodical system, to deliver information and training in a systematic way, in a very affordable way, but at a large scale. And we have several discussions going on, of course, with the First Woman Bank, talking to the State Bank, also the current administration, the new government and the new leadership. And I would like to raise this question to you, Princess Nisreen. Rasid's philosophy, if, for example, if it were to play a role in Pakistan with other countries, with Africa, with Malaysia, with Thailand, with some of the Islamic countries, there can be a lot of fertilization between the scientific ideas, technical ideas, pharmaceuticals, knowledge, medical, tied with the talent. It's all there, it is all sitting, and it's all possible. So the question is, where is the problem? Why these dots are not being connected? Or what do you think we have come here and doing something so different, Princess?
Well, first of all, I would like to commend Madam Tahira. Her answer for the first question was amazing, and she tackled every single issue. And she raised as well the importance of the role of women in Pakistan. Also, she raised the importance of the role model in Pakistan. There are so many great Pakistani women overseas that they can play as role models whether for younger generation or youth or even middle-aged generation. So, whereas it can be of help here and how can connect the dots. Well, first of all, we have a great number of Pakistani experts or experts who are originally from Pakistan living in the West, different countries who are in different fields of sciences, whether they are women or men. And actually people, whereas it can play here, is not only through its members or the associates, whether Pakistani or non-Pakistani, but as well by creating a platform where private sector, public sector can meet together and at the same time, bringing the experts with the new ideas. Here you mentioned about the role of women in science and moving science into business, and here comes the new ideas, whether in life sciences like pharmaceuticals, in medications, in technology, and the role of the private sector like the bank or the investors here. So why we did not have this opportunity in, not as Razak, but generally speaking, whether in Pakistan or other countries, because the world is so busy in identifying the problems. Like, I will give you an example. For the last more than 25 years, the world was talking we have less number of women in science than in men. But why still have this problem? Nobody identified the problem and find a solution. The same thing as the connecting the science to business or public, private sector, etc. So actually the world is busy, still busy, in the problems, whether climate change, environment, agriculture, technology, etc. Technology by itself does not solve the problem. We need to identify the problem based on the solution. Now, if me as an executive director of RADIT, I will propose the following solution. Working with you and the honorable lady, we can identify group of women, and you can identify group of women in Pakistan, and we can identify for you group of women from our colleagues in RADIT who are Pakistani women, and bring them together to think together, a think tank, and with the solution. This is like, for example, one forward in this field in agriculture, because we need sustainable agriculture. This is important. If you want to move forward in medicine, if you do not start practical solutions, you will keep talking just only about the problem, like whatever is happening in the world. And this is the main thing. We need, first of all, to know how the problem or every program, let's say, should be identified based on the community or the society, because whatever is suitable for Pakistan, not necessary to be suitable for its neighboring country or other countries. This is quite important, because the culture is different. We need to understand the culture. We need to improve our communication skills to the society, to the community, to speak their languages. Like, I will give you an example. Like when in some Islamic societies, when they don't send the girls into school, I say, oh, good people, but Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that education is fard, is a must on every Muslim and man. So, like you are not obeying Rasulullah. So I'm using the words of Islam here to encourage, fighting illiteracy. We need to speak the language of the society. We need to bring those overseas to the national or local to talk. We need to start moving into practical solutions. We as already collaborate with Madam Tahira to bring forward to Pakistan the practical solutions, whether in renewable energy, whether in science, policy, whether in agriculture, in water sanitation, or as well in health and applied sciences.
Great.
With technology. The main thing is we need to identify the priorities. We need to, the priority issues. We need to prepare proper studies to move forward and find solutions with action plans and training. And this is what we can do. And of course, we believe in partnership in Radha. We believe in the we mentality, means that we have to work together, in order to achieve the result or the sustainable solution that will help generations to come.
One of the challenge I think we have is how do we identify the 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 businesswomen to come forward, because if we were to bring in the science and technology and the funding opportunities and the commercialization opportunities, how they will all tie and put together. How do you think we can find, of course, the reason of doing these debates and doing these marathon and doing this Expothon is to raise the bar of the conversation, of the discussion, of the engagement. But at the bottom, we still have to find those 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 entrepreneurs, women, and also the male entrepreneurs. There are 10,000 male entrepreneurs who can very nicely optimize the technology and all the other options equally and enjoy the benefit. How do we do that? What are our challenges? What are the problems?
The first thing is that because we do not have much data available on women, and generally most of the business women, even if they are very successful, they are not documented and they are not exposing themselves, through different, they are not in the tax bracket, or sometimes they don't want to really disclose their names. So I think that's the biggest challenge. But if we have a program where, people are convinced that this is going to bring in business expansion for them and a win-win situation, I'm sure they would come forward. One way is like through these kind of programs that we exactly tell them what those programs are going to do for them and how would it help them, because there would be some reason why these women do not want to expose themselves or want to declare their data or show themselves in public. Maybe there are certain inhibitions. We have to actually find out what those reasons are. And if we can address those reasons, or if we can provide them a way out that how they can address these issues, probably we'll be able to find some. But my only concern is that, the kind of women we are looking for, this number, maybe there are more than 2,000 women in Pakistan who can who are doing this kind of business. But on the record, through documentation, we only see some 400 to 500 corporates, which are, when I'm not disaggregating, gender disaggregated data without that. And there would be, if out of those 500 companies, maybe there are only 1 or 2% who are, run by women. So we really have to look deeper into the issues why women are not coming to the forefront, because I believe, and as you very well said, that women are born entrepreneurs because they're multitaskers.
Thank you.
So they have to, whatever they are doing, probably they do not have the opportunity. Probably we need to expose, help them exploit their own potential and be aware of their own potential, and they can do wonders. And that's what we have really have to expose them to. And I'm sure through these awareness sessions, we can only be partners to it and help you, because we do have access to certain women businesses. We can join hands with you and offer those women these kind of programs. But as you know, that seeing is believing. Unless they have had some kind of an experience of what these programs are like, probably they may not commit themselves to. So we have to create a starting forum where those women come and experience that success, so that later on they themselves should feel motivated to come and participate in those programs.
What do you think, Princess Nisreen, that in order to roll out the kind of big picture vision that we have brought to Pakistan, to TCS, to Akhara debates, and in exclusive partnership, we are laying out these massive programs. What are your thoughts and your comments as an outside observer?
Well, there is one thing that, I would like to talk about here, which is that Madame Tahira raised, which is why women do not come into the front and do not expose themselves, into as experts, etc. And this is not only in Pakistan, by the way, it is an international issue. We faced it with women in science, even in the West, like why you do not come to the front. We need to build the self-esteem in women that move forward to talk, to express their opinion, etc. And as well, we need the encouragement of men to bring. Well, actually, as I was saying that this issue of why women do not expose their potential or bring themselves into the front, it is an international issue. It's not only in Pakistan, whether they are in business and science, etc. And we faced it, by even in the West, when inviting women in science, professors, to come and speak at the United Nations. And actually, this is because of the lack of self-esteem within women, the encouragement, the power, feel that they can create a change, as well to make them more engaged in public issues. Because women, like I will talk about women in science, that they are always busy in their laboratories, and or their clinics, etc. They say, my voice will not be counted, policymakers will not listen to us, etc. So we need to encourage them to be much more involved in the community, with the society, in policy making. With the men, we need their encouragement to the women, to their female colleagues. And this comes that, in a way, how to say, not only just the he for she, it is far beyond, because women and men are partners in this world. They are not competitors. So when you encourage or empower your female colleague, that doesn't mean she's going to take your place, or a woman will not, a man will not take her place. We live as partners, and we need to change this mentality a bit. Now, regarding where we can, regarding what shall we do here in Pakistan, I think I will join Madame Tahira when she said that we need a forum to bring these women, and I would suggest that to bring the women and men together, rather than just women, because like this they can talk, they can identify the problem, and women themselves will be much more encouraged. Razat can help you with you, Mr. Javid. We can collaborate together on bringing such a forum. Also, if you are, it will be great pleasure to have Madam Tahira and other Pakistani women to come and speak and be present and participate on February 11, 2019 at the United Nations. The next year theme for the International Day of Women and Girls in Science Forum will be investment in women in science for inclusive economic growth. So actually it's all about the investment, about the role of women in science business or developing business, and how they can be society. And at the same time, we need to bring these women outside the shell to come and speak out. And this, in my opinion, we need to play on the role of media, which we can help in present. Media is very important. The forum, the workshops, and we are ready to provide you all the help and the assistance in this matter, that we work with other colleagues in different countries, and we achieve great success.
This is great, and as you know, that we are already in discussions to roll out a very major scientific and technologically advanced discussion to the entrepreneurial mid-sized economy of Pakistan, and probably do a forum around that. And we will also continue expanding on the horizon of how mid-sized companies play such an important role. I would like to thank Tyra. You have an amazing combination, some very interesting situation. You have a big role to play. We are with you. I'm sure we will get assistance, advice, suggestion from Princess and her global accessibility, and we will try to bring whatever we can from our global contact base. But the idea of this whole discussion is very simple. We want to continually discuss, we want to continuously engage, we want to continuously address and raise the bar of understanding and knowledge, because we still feel that money is an important part of business, but it is not the only part. The most critical part of business growth is understanding what business is, how it is run, understanding of innovation, technology, how the blending of all those ideas create the growth. Money becomes a side product of all those good, successful activity. This is how successful emerging countries and nations have proven it. It's a proven model again and again right across Asia. I think that if we could figure out a way to keep the discussions alive, like what we are doing here over the next 12 hours, and hopefully frequently, then this is how people come out and they say, oh, I heard about this, oh, I saw about this, oh, this thing can do something for me, or I have this idea, or how do I go about it? Because tools, technology, growth, potential, people, all the smartness is there. It's the question of connecting the dots.
I would just like to add and thank Princess for bringing this up, because partnerships, collaboration, exchange of groups, a lot of learning takes place due to exchange, and the diversity, various different ways of doing things, and gaining confidence, because most of the time when women are doing a lot of things, as you very well said, that sometimes their own self-esteem has been hurt so many times that they don't feel that confident. But once you exchange groups from different countries, from different parts of the country, I guess it helps them gain that confidence, and it is very, very important. I'm very grateful for you to bringing this up, and partnership is the way to go. No single person can move forward. So the kind of partnership which we are seeing here, and the partnerships in different kinds of ventures cross-border and within the country are very, very important.
Indeed. And we are ready to work with you hand in hand, and to provide our services, and as well the experts, the colleagues. We are at your disposal, and I would like to say thank you, Mr. Javid. Really, this platform is very, very important. You are bringing something in you, something like two women to talk, and the moderation for a gentleman. This is something incredible. I just would like to say that from my experience as a doctor and a scientist, as an associate professor of medicine, that Pakistan is very rich its people. As you said, Mr. Javid, money is not everything, but the Pakistani experts and Pakistan is rich in its people, and this is the wealth actually. And that's why from a human being, from the talented people, the experts, where it comes the innovation. And I have full trust in you, and looking forward to welcome you in February at the UN and to work hand in hand with you. Because as you said, Madam Tahra, partnership is very important, particularly if we think in the we mentality.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Princess Nasreen. We will continue our discussion and dialogue. Thank you, Tahira.
Thank you very much, and it's indeed lovely to have met you and seen your passion, and I'm sure we together can do a lot of things together for women and for our own selves as well. Sure.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Excellent. Excellent. Goodbye for now. Thank you.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Thank you.
See, first of all, I would like to thank Her Royal Highness Princess Nasreen Al Hashamite to be so generous to join with us. We've been talking with her a few ideas on how to take Pakistani women's, maybe a delegation possibly to United Nations, explore some possible alliances. She's also very interested in coming and visiting us with us and bring some delegation to try to put a spotlight on the women entrepreneurs and how they do it. Now, there are a lot of royal people, but she is a doctor, she's a scientist, and she's a promoter. So she really understands the hardcore issues. And we have always argued that if we can bring explicit knowledge, good education, good certification, and bring it closer to the business, whether it's all women or in general, it is always beneficial, it is always a good idea, and it works. So I think that we had a great discussion and we had a great session. Now, I would like to continue this discussion. This is getting there. And to all those women entrepreneurs who are listening, I have now Jia Farooqi with us. Jia Farooqi is the Roshni Rides, a very successful, a very dynamic entrepreneurial endeavor. And she got $1 million funding, which is not something easily available, and she has done very well, playing a very important role. And then, of course, I have with me Jamil Jancho, the CEO of Aktara, and I thought we will just have a round discussion on that. So tell me, how do you see how do you play a catalyst role? I guess you're helping women to become mobile, and by becoming mobile, they become more responsive to the business needs. And I guess women have special issues with the children and the household. So you must be very much in the spotlight.
Yes, so Pakistani women are actually 4 times less mobile than men, and this leads to a decrease in economic independence, a decrease in job participation, and this is problematic for the women of Pakistan, because as they want to become more mobile or actually reach more jobs, they need to do it in a way that feels safe for them, that's accessible for them, and that's reliable for them. And so when my team and I came and examined this market, we realized that the transportation industry here doesn't really cater to vulnerable populations. You have rickshaws, which you can face harassment for. They aren't safe. There's no reliable pricing for it. There's always regulation issues there. There's buses where they're crowded. It's very overwhelming. Even if you have the 2 different sections, men often take over the women's sections as well. They don't feel comfortable on them. A lot of women face harassment. Actually, a recent study shows that 89% of Pakistani women face harassment on these buses. And then you have your Careem and Ubers, which are at a price point that not every single woman can afford on a single daily basis. So you have all these range of issues when it comes to the average woman in Pakistan with different transportation means, that we saw that pick and drop services are trying to solve it, but not doing it in a correct way because there's so many small third-party contractors trying to facilitate it. When it comes to route optimization and efficiency, you have a route for a woman that's going to be taking 2 hours that should only take 45 minutes. And so we thought, why isn't there an organization that is collecting this entire base of supply and connecting them to the demand? And that's what we're trying to do at
Could
Roshni
you
Rides.
take 3 minutes and explain how your model works? Like
Yes, of
exactly
course. Yeah.
how does it work? How would I
So-
use something like that? I mean, a woman would use.
Roshni Rides is a B2P carpooling platform. So a Roshni Rides woman was basically a staff member, an employee of a larger corporation. You can bring Roshni Rides to your business yourself, or a corporation can enlist with our company. And so once you subscribe on a monthly basis, your company's staff gets a ride to and from work.
And how were you able to take that quantum leap and become so successful, and you were able to do it and get the funding? What were the 2-3 critical advantages that you had, or how these dots got connected that allowed you to become a pioneer in this thinking?
So Roshni Rides has gone through several iterations. We've done several pivots, and that's about adapting and learning through the market and learning from your failure very, very quickly. We've been working on this company since last summer. I would say I started engaging in the Holt Prize, which is a student competition and where we originated from since October 2016. And we just kept pivoting depending on market needs, understanding our market, the skill sets that our team could bring to the table, until we found a good product market fit. And you need to understand that when you're doing a startup journey, that even if you fail once or the first thing doesn't work, you need to learn how to adapt quickly to make it to the next thing.
JJ, in your work in corporate training and having dealt with women all along in the training field, and also looking at the numbers of women coming up in the market, what are some of your thoughts? Do you see a dramatic rise of their role, and do you see that some of these problems are being tackled at perhaps on a more larger scale? Because I think, is your operation national or just Karachi?
Right now we're just in Karachi, but we're hoping to scale to Lahore and Islamabad.
It'll be amazing. It'll be an amazing story if you do that. So JJ, what are some of your thoughts on it?
Well, we've been in the business of corporate executive training for over a decade. And I think one of the real challenges is bringing in as many women participants in our programs as possible. But I wouldn't say that there has been an increase in some of those programs that, some women or some ladies who are working in the corporate sectors come across and join us. But there's not a dramatic increase that one would want to see, considering that, again, I see that the universities, the business schools, have a large number of women participants over there, women, students over there. But we don't see that translating into coming into higher education over the years. And I would assume that is because of the fact that either they are not able to able to afford these programs, or they're not able to get funding from their organizations. So that's a challenge. Organizations don't normally look at people within their organization who will be sort of being trained for the future, see. And women generally have it, there is a certain perception that a woman, especially if she's single, that if she comes into a job, she would perhaps be there only till such time she does not get married, or she's not looking for a partner. And so any investment made in her training perhaps may not be very beneficial in the long run.
So this is a
That's the challenge.
mindset that I think we as a company are trying to change as we work. We work with a lot of HR admins, and the idea is that a corporation should be investing in their employee base to increase their ROI at the end of the day. The more happy and better staff that you have, studies have shown over and over again, means that your company is going to do much better overall. And so when we talk to these women and we talk about their mobility issues, it has a emotional toll on them and has a mental toll on them. They feel exhausted day in and day out, spending hours on their commute and trying to budget for it and save their salaries. So all of a sudden, when your company is now saying, this is an additional benefit that I'm going to provide for you, or I'm going to assist you and help maybe give you a transportation stipend, or work with roasting rides, for example, to provide you a better quality ride, you see better performance from your staff, you see happiness from your staff, they're coming in more energized to work, and then you have better productivity overall. And this is a business cultural shift that needs to happen in Pakistan, where companies need to start thinking about how can we provide better environments for our corporations, for our staff, so that we do better in the long run. And I think a lot of multinationals are thinking about this. I mean, you can always point out your Googles and your Facebooks of the world who give a lot of opportunity to their staff and have great work environments, and there's a reason they're doing the best, around the world in terms of ROI and investment. And so I think that if we can bring that mentality here and partner with and companies can partner with organizations like mine, we can create a better work environment for everybody.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Are there challenges that you face in terms of getting women to join you on account of their families? Do these women are very aspiring? They're ambitious, and they would like to come into the.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the women staff that we work with are working mothers, and the reason they want to come on with roshni rides is because they need a service that's timely. They don't have time to waste. They have to take care of things at home. They have to go to work, and they want something that's affordable. If you're only making a certain amount of salary per month, and that's going to your children's tuition, which is very expensive in this country, or it's going to groceries or your own personal expenses, you don't want to spend whatever your hard-earned money is on transport back and forth from work, right? And so that's why a lot of them are sacrificing their energy and their time. And I've met women who will take a rickshaw, then they'll take a bus, and then they'll walk, and they spend 2 hours getting from point A to point B just to save money. And this is ridiculous. So when asked, what if you got something for a little bit of around the same price or a little bit more expensive, but it was air conditioned, it was timely, and it took you straight from one point to another, a lot of women were like, I would pay for that. I would get onto that subscription service, because it's about their own self-care at this point as well, right?
What are the obstacles that don't allow for that kind of service to be provided?
Like the obstacles.
Are there external obstacles, or why would not anybody, an investor or an entrepreneur, look at this transportation problem?
I think the obstacles in transportation is that it's a very highly competitive marketplace. We aren't the first startup to try and do carpooling or commuting in Pakistan. I was just speaking to someone earlier, and within the last couple of years, there's been around 6 ride-sharing startups that have started and failed here in Karachi. And some of the issues that they faced is a lack of funding and not being aware of their capital expenses or strategic with their capital expenses when it comes to fleet management or software development. And so what you really need is a strong group of advisors, of people who know this marketplace and this industry, and using your funding very wisely. And that's what we're trying to do. It's a very competitive marketplace. There's a lot of different players. You have political issues in the marketplace, like mafia holders. You have, your Careem and your Ubers and Baikia that are trying to, X everybody out, which is why we went through the B2B route. Because we believe that just trying to target individual riders, there's a huge marketing expense with that. And we believe that, going straight to the corporations and trying to create a change there is where we would create the most impact. So that's what we're doing right now. And, over the last 6 months we've been here, we've seen, some success. We've onboarded some clients already. We're working on our app development, which will be released soon. So it's exciting to see all of the progress that we've made, and we've made it pretty quickly for a young startup. And we'll see where it takes us.
What is your structure like? How are you? Could you just give us a description, like how many people, how many bodies, how do you handle this volume? And what will happen that if you take a quantum leap and become a national organization or even open other countries?
So I'm lucky enough to have 3 great co-founders with me who came from my university with me. So when we were students and competing in this prize, I went to Rutgers University in New Jersey in the U.S. And all 4 of us graduated from there.
Oh, so all Rutgers gang.
Yeah. So that's where we came from. And we just hired a fleet manager. He was our first employee. He's great, and we're looking to hire a few more. And for me, the learning is I was actually very nervous to hire people.
Why?
Because I thought there would be a lot of training involved. How do you pay for all of their salaries when you're trying to look at the set number of funding you have? But hiring people who understand things that you may not understand or may be experts in their section is the best thing you can do as an entrepreneur. And as you grow your team wisely, they take you to the next step, to the next level much faster. So when it comes to scaling, we have a scaling plan put in place, and it comes with the hires. As you reach certain milestones, or as you reach, okay, I have X amount of clients, that means I need to also have this amount of staff on my team to be able to, cater to that volume. So that's what we're working on right now.
Oh, that's great. And all those 10, 20,000 people listening out there, and those looking for interesting challenges, please circle this Roshni Rides and make sure to send a personalized resume. You know what happens in this growth.
Yeah, I mean, there's a section on our website if you're interested in working for us.
Because I think you have the something amazing in incubation, and I think the ideas like this grow. But the most important is I really feel for the women who don't have the resources for them to go for mobility, and I've experienced some of that struggle in some of these situations when we are doing major projects, and I find that they just cannot make themselves mobile to come to do that.
A huge problem.
And Pakistan has no public transportation.
Exactly.
I hope that China deal goes through quickly. That's only for Karachi for a few hundred buses. But transportation, national transportation is this. Sometimes I talk like a foreigner, sometimes I talk like a Canadian. We call success when masses are successful. We don't call success when you have a big home and a big factory and you have a big car. To us, success is the grassroots prosperity.
Exactly.
And then when you have a grassroots prosperity, it creates a very different culture. If you know that everybody in your organization has a health care, and they have got education, and they have safety, and they have roof over their shoulder, and they have a fridge that has food in it, to me, that is the successful feeling.
Absolutely.
The rest is, I don't know.
Because the impact is tenfold. If you can put a roof over the head of one family, they can provide for their kids who will go to school, who will be able to get educated and enfold, maybe join the workforce, and impact delivers like a domino effect.
If everybody is successful, then it helps the society. Now, I want to take this opportunity to promise you that through our debates, we'll keep an eye on you. And please, you do the same thing. We have some amazing plans ahead, and we are very, very grateful that we can do this and so on. So we would like to talk to you again. And then with the leadership of JJ and Oktara, there'll be other things happening along those lines. And I want to thank you for coming. Now, I want to shift on to the next topic, which is the micro power nation. Everybody knows what superpower nations are, but then what are the micro power nations?